The Ashley Fish case has 11 officially documented inconsistencies. At 6:30 p.m. on April 7, 2022, a call came into the DeRidder Police Department in Louisiana. The man on the line said, "I shot my girlfriend. She's dead. I need to turn myself in." No request for an ambulance. No request for medical help. Zero attempt at resuscitation. Right now, phone records show that 21 minutes separated Ashley Fish's last text message and the confession call. Investigators detected something never before recorded in Beauregard Parish cases. The perpetrator informed the 911 operator that there were children alone in the house. Ashley's last message to the father of her children was at 5:50 p.m. "I'll have the girls call soon, trying to do dinner and stuff." 40 minutes later, she had been fatally shot in her home. Even more disturbing, when police arrived, it was Ashley's own daughters who led officers to the location. Tyler Derochowski had locked the door, removed ammunition from the weapon, and left the house, leaving 4 young children alone. The case broke every known protocol of post-incident confession. Here's what should concern you. In 2 years of relationship, not one neighbor, not one family member, not one authority had recorded a single incident of concern. And then, in 21 minutes, Ashley Fish lost her life. Think about that. Before we dive deeper into this investigation, if you want to stay updated on cases that highlight the importance of domestic violence awareness, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what we're about to reveal will change how you see warning signs in relationships. And drop a comment telling us, do you think there were indicators that everyone missed? Ashley Fish was 28 years old, born in 1994. She had lived her entire life in Louisiana, spending most of her adult years in the DeRidder area of Beauregard Parish. This is rural Louisiana, small-town America, population around 10,000 people, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where neighbors look out for each other. Ashley was a mother. That's the first thing everyone who knew her would tell you. Mother of 4 daughters, 4 girls who depended on her for everything. Ashley was known in the community. She had connections. She had friends. She was active in her daughters' lives. The kind of mother who showed up, who made sure her kids were fed, clothed, cared for, who put them first in every decision she made. Ashley had been in a previous relationship with a man identified in court documents as Mr. Fish. That relationship produced the 4 daughters. The relationship ended, but they maintained a co-parenting arrangement. Mr. Fish remained involved in his daughters' lives. He had visitation rights. The girls would see him regularly, and Ashley and Mr. Fish communicated about the logistics of raising their children. On April 7, 2022, at 5:50 p.m., Ashley sent what would be her final text message to Mr. Fish. The exact content. "I'll have the girls call soon. Trying to do dinner and stuff. I guess call when you're ready later. I'm still working on my situation here. I'll have the girls call soon." Present tense. Future plans. Ashley expected to continue her evening normally. Trying to do dinner and stuff. Normal evening activities. Making food for her children, the routine of motherhood. "I guess call when you're ready later." She's coordinating timing with Mr. Fish. Nothing unusual, nothing alarming. But then, "I'm still working on my situation here." What situation? What was happening in Ashley's house at 5:50 p.m. that she described as "my situation"? The prosecution would later suggest this was a reference to Tyler Derochowski, to an argument, to a conflict that was unfolding. But we don't know for certain. Ashley didn't specify. And 40 minutes later, the situation had escalated to a fatal outcome. Let's talk about Tyler Derochowski, 31 years old in April 2022. According to testimony from his adoptive father, Zygmunt Derkowski, Tyler was adopted when he was approximately 4 years old. Tyler met Ashley around 2020. They began a romantic relationship. At some point, Tyler moved into Ashley's home on Northridge Drive in DeRidder. Tyler moved into Ashley's home. It was her house, her space, her children's home. Tyler was the newcomer to an established family unit. Ashley's mother, Sheila Krebsbach, testified that she found out about her daughter's relationship with Derkowski shortly before Ashley moved back to DeRidder. Mrs. Krebsbach visited her daughter's house after Ashley and Tyler were together. She saw Tyler there, but she testified that they didn't interact much. She would visit Ashley and the girls, but Tyler remained somewhat separate. Mrs. Krebsbach also testified to something critical. "I never knew my daughter to be aggressive or physically violent." This matters because in cases where violence occurs, there's often a question of whether conflict was mutual. According to Ashley's own mother, Ashley was not violent, was not aggressive. did not have a history of physical altercations. So if Ashley wasn't violent, and there's no documented history of Tyler being violent, what happened on April 7th, 2022? Let's reconstruct the day as best we can from the evidence presented at trial. April 7th, 2022, a Thursday, spring in Louisiana. Ashley was home with her 4 daughters. Tyler was also at the house. At some point during the day or early evening, they were all together in the residence on North Ridge Drive. At 5:50 p.m., Ashley sent that text message to Mr. Fish. She was working on dinner. She was managing her children. She was dealing with her situation. Somewhere between 5:50 p.m. and 6:30 p.m., Tyler Derochowski retrieved Ashley's Smith & Wesson handgun, the gun that Ashley and Mr. Fish had purchased together back in 2016 for home protection. Tyler had access to that weapon. The exact moment isn't specified in the official timeline, but we can make inferences based on what Tyler told the 911 dispatcher. When Tyler called 911 at approximately 6:30 p.m., he told Officer Santiago that the incident had occurred about 10 minutes before. That would place it at around 6:20 p.m. That's a 30-minute gap between Ashley's last text message and the incident. 30 minutes where something escalated, where a situation became critical. What happened in those 30 minutes? We don't know. Tyler never fully explained his reasoning. The trial focused on whether he had specific intent, not on what motivated him to form that intent. Here's what we do know happened. Tyler used the weapon. Ashley was fatally injured. The location was inside the home. After the incident, Tyler made a series of decisions. These decisions are critical because they speak to his state of mind. They speak to whether this was a momentary action or something more calculated. First decision, Tyler secured the location. He told the 911 dispatcher that the door is locked. He knew the area was secured. Second decision, Tyler removed ammunition from the weapon. He told Officer Santiago explicitly, "I unloaded the clip." This shows presence of mind. This shows someone who is thinking about safety, about preventing further incidents. If you're in a moment of passion, you don't typically think to unload the weapon afterward. You drop it. You panic. You react emotionally. But Tyler took the time to remove the ammunition. That's a deliberate, conscious action. Third decision, Tyler left the house. He didn't stay at the scene. He didn't call 911 from inside the house. He left. And when he left 4 children in that residence. Tyler told Officer Santiago during the 911 call, "There are kids at the house that need someone with them." He acknowledged that the children were there. He acknowledged that they needed help, but he didn't stay with them. Fourth decision, Tyler called 911, but he didn't call from the house. He called from another location. The exact location isn't specified in the documents, but he had left the residence before making the call. This matters because it shows planning. It shows that Tyler left the scene, traveled to another location, and then decided to report what he'd done. The timeline suggests it was quick, maybe just a few minutes, but it was enough time for him to put distance between himself and the scene. And when he did call, his words were careful. "I shot my girlfriend. I think she's dead. I need to turn myself in." Not, "I killed my girlfriend," he said, "I think," creating ambiguity. Even though he told Officer Santiago moments later that Ashley wasn't breathing when he left. Officer Gladys Santiago, the 911 dispatcher who took Tyler's call, handled the situation professionally. She obtained the critical information: location, nature of the emergency, whether there were additional threats. She dispatched units immediately, and she kept Tyler on the line. This is standard 911 protocol. You don't let the caller disconnect until you have all the information you need and officers are on scene. Keeping the caller on the line also prevents them from fleeing, from destroying evidence, from creating additional problems. Tyler stayed on the line. He answered Officer Santiago's questions. He provided details about the weapon, about Ashley's location, about the children in the house. He was cooperative in that sense. Officer Cameron Smith and Corporal Joshua Stanford were dispatched to North Ridge Drive at approximately 6:30 p.m. DeRidder is a small town. Response times are quick. Corporal Stanford arrived first. He approached the residence on North Ridge Drive, a single-family home, residential neighborhood, quiet street. He approached the door. Ashley's oldest daughter was there. She informed the officer where her mother could be found. Corporal Stanford entered the house. He would have been assessing the situation as he moved through it, looking for threats, looking for additional victims, looking for the suspect, even though Tyler had called 911 and said he left. You never assume a scene is safe just because someone says it is. Corporal Stanford located Ashley Fish. She had sustained fatal injuries. There was nothing that could be done. Ashley Fish had passed away. Corporal Stanford secured the area as an investigation scene. He radioed for backup, for detectives, for the coroner, and he made sure the children in the house were safe and separated from the scene. Officer Smith arrived as backup. Together, he and Corporal Stanford began the process of securing everything and initiating the investigation. But there was an immediate jurisdictional question. DeRidder Police Department initially responded because the 911 call suggested the incident occurred within city limits. But upon closer examination, Sheriff Mark Herford of the Beauregard Parish Sheriff's Office determined that the residence on Northridge Drive was actually just outside the DeRidder city boundaries. That meant the case fell under BPSO jurisdiction, not DeRidder PD. BPSO units responded. Detectives arrived. The investigation team arrived. The coroner arrived. And Tyler Derochowski, who had turned himself in to DeRidder police, was transferred to BPSO custody. Tyler was brought to the Beauregard Parish Sheriff's Office for questioning. He had already confessed on the 911 call, but detectives needed to get a formal statement. They needed details. The specific content of Tyler's interview with BPSO detectives hasn't been fully released to the public. What we do know is that he didn't deny his actions. He'd already admitted them on a recorded 911 call. Sheriff Mark Herford made a statement to the press shortly after Tyler's arrest. He confirmed that Ashley Fish had been found deceased in her home on Northridge Drive. He confirmed that Tyler Derochowski had called police and confessed. He confirmed that Tyler was in custody and had been charged with second-degree murder. But when reporters asked about the relationship between Ashley and Tyler, Sheriff Herford declined to comment. When asked about a possible motive, he declined to comment. "The investigation is ongoing," he said. Tyler was booked into the Vernon Parish Jail. The Beauregard Parish Jail was closed at the time, so individuals were housed in Vernon Parish. Tyler's bond was not immediately set. Ashley Fish's remains were taken to the coroner's office. The examination would determine exact details that would become part of the prosecution's case. Ashley's 4 daughters were placed in the care of family members. Exactly who took custody isn't specified in public records, but it was likely a combination of their father, Mr. Fish, and Ashley's mother, Sheila Krebsbach. The children would need immediate counseling. They would need stability. They would need to begin processing the unimaginable loss of their mother. The investigation continued for weeks. BPSO detectives interviewed neighbors. Had anyone heard anything? Had anyone seen anything unusual at the Fish residence? Had there been any prior incidents? The answers apparently were no. Neighbors didn't report hearing anything unusual. There were no prior police calls to the address. There was no documented history of issues between Ashley and Tyler. This is not uncommon. According to domestic violence statistics, many situations escalate without outside intervention. Victims often don't report. Neighbors often don't hear or see anything. The incidents happen privately, away from witnesses. But the lack of prior incidents created a challenge for prosecutors. If there was no documented pattern, how do you establish context? How do you show the jury that this wasn't completely unexpected? The answer lies in the evidence of the actions themselves. Tyler's decisions after the incident speak volumes. The secured door, the unloaded weapon, the decision to leave the children, the 911 call from a different location. These aren't the actions of someone in a blind panic. These are calculated decisions. As the investigation continued, detectives also looked at Tyler's background. Were there prior incidents in his history? Prior arrests? Prior allegations? The public record doesn't show any. Tyler Derochowski didn't have a documented history of violent offenses before April 7, 2022. The case moved through the legal system. Tyler was formally arraigned. He was assigned a public defender. The prosecution began building its case. Months passed. Ashley's family held a funeral. They laid her to rest in Louisiana. They began the long, painful process of grieving and trying to help 4 little girls understand why their mother wasn't coming home. Tyler remained in custody. In Louisiana, defendants charged with second-degree murder typically remain in jail pending trial. Tyler didn't make bond. He stayed in the Vernon Parish Jail. Nearly 2 years would pass between the incident in April 2022 and the trial in March 2024. During that time, Tyler's defense attorneys would have been developing their strategy. They had a difficult task. Their client had confessed on a recorded 911 call. The physical evidence corroborated his confession. Their best option was to challenge the sufficiency of the evidence on the specific intent element. In Louisiana, Second-degree murder requires proof that the defendant had specific intent to kill or inflict great bodily harm. Specific intent is a higher bar than general intent. It means the defendant consciously desired to bring about the outcome or to cause serious injury. It's not enough to show that the defendant's actions were reckless. You have to show they intended that result. The defense strategy would be to argue that while Tyler did commit the act, and while Ashley did lose her life, the prosecution hadn't proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Tyler had that specific intent. The prosecution, meanwhile, had a strong case. They had the confession. They had the physical evidence. They had the testimony of the officers who responded. They had the forensic evidence. They had the 911 call recording. And they had the testimony of Ashley's family, which would help the jury see Ashley as a real person, a mother, a daughter, someone whose life had value and meaning. In March 2024, the case finally went to trial. The state of Louisiana versus Tyler Neal Derkowski, second-degree murder. The trial was held in Beauregard Parish. A jury was selected from the community, 12 people who would hear the evidence and decide Tyler's fate. The prosecution's opening statement laid out the timeline. April 7th, 2022. Ashley Fish at home with her children, Tyler Derochowski in the house. A conflict. Tyler retrieving Ashley's weapon. The fatal incident. Tyler securing the area, unloading the weapon, leaving the house, calling 911. 4 children left without their mother. The defense's opening statement acknowledged the tragedy, but argued that the prosecution hadn't proven specific intent. Yes, Tyler committed the act. Yes, it was terrible. But did the evidence prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he intended the outcome? The prosecution called its first witness, Officer Gladys Santiago. Officer Santiago took the stand and testified about the 911 call. She described Tyler's demeanor, his words. She confirmed that he said he had committed the act, that he thought Ashley had passed, that he needed to turn himself in. She confirmed that Tyler did not request medical assistance, did not ask for an ambulance, did not express concern for Ashley's well-being beyond stating he thought she had passed. The 911 call recording was played for the jury. They heard Tyler's voice. They heard him confess. They heard the tone. This is critical evidence. When a jury hears a defendant's actual words in their actual voice, recorded moments after an incident, it creates an impact that written transcripts can't match. The prosecution called Corporal Joshua Stanford. Corporal Stanford testified about responding to the scene, about being informed by Ashley's oldest daughter where to find her mother, about entering the residence and locating Ashley Fish, about confirming that she had passed, about securing the scene, about the other children in the house, about the beginning of the investigation. The defense cross-examined, but there wasn't much to challenge. Corporal Stanford's testimony was straightforward. He responded to a call. He found Ashley. He followed protocol. The prosecution called forensic experts. An investigation specialist testified about processing the scene, about photographing everything, about collecting evidence, about documentation. A firearms expert testified about the weapon, about the type, about how it operates, about the ammunition, about the fact that the magazine had been removed and was found separate from the weapon. Medical testimony was provided about the cause of Ashley's passing. This testimony is difficult for families to hear. It's clinical, it's detailed, but it's necessary to prove the elements of the charge. The prosecution called Mr. Fish. Mr. Fish testified about his relationship with Ashley, about their 4 daughters together, about the co-parenting arrangement they had, about the text message Ashley sent him at 5:50 p.m. on April 7th. He read the text aloud for the jury. "I'll have the girls call soon. Trying to do dinner and stuff. I guess call when you're ready later. I'm still working on my situation here." He testified that this was the last communication he received from Ashley, that she never called later, that the girls never called, that he learned the next day that Ashley had passed. The defense cross-examined, asking whether Mr. Fish knew what situation Ashley was referring to. He said he didn't. The text seemed normal to him at the time, just Ashley coordinating the evening routine. The prosecution called Sheila Krebsbach, Ashley's mother. Mrs. Krebsbach's testimony was emotional. She testified about her daughter, about Ashley's character, about the fact that Ashley was a devoted mother who put her children first. She testified about Ashley's relationship with Tyler Derochowski, about the fact that she knew Tyler was living with Ashley, but didn't interact with him much when she visited. And she testified to the critical fact, "I never knew my daughter to be aggressive or physically violent." This testimony counters any potential defense theory that Ashley was an aggressor, that there was mutual conflict, that Tyler acted in some kind of response. According to Ashley's own mother, Ashley wasn't violent. The defense cross-examined Mrs. Krebsbach, but gently. The defense asked some questions about how often she visited, what she observed, but didn't challenge her court testimony. The prosecution rested its case. Now it was the defense's turn. They called their own witnesses, trying to create reasonable doubt about specific intent. The defense called Zygmunt Derkowski, Tyler's adoptive father. Mr. Derkowski testified about adopting Tyler when he was 4 years old, about raising him, about Tyler's life. The defense was trying to humanize Tyler, to make the jury see him as more than just a defendant. But there's only so much this testimony can accomplish when your client has confessed. The defense called other witnesses, though the specifics aren't all detailed in the public record. They may have called character witnesses. They may have called experts to discuss specific intent and what proves it. But ultimately, the defense's case rested on one argument. The prosecution hasn't proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Tyler had the specific intent to cause the fatal outcome. The prosecution gave its closing argument. They walked the jury through the evidence. The 911 call, the confession, the physical evidence, the testimony of the officers, the forensic evidence, the timeline. They argued that Tyler's actions after the incident proved specific intent. He secured the door. He unloaded the weapon. He left the scene. He called 911 from a different location. He said he thought Ashley had passed. Those aren't the actions of someone who accidentally discharged a weapon. Those aren't the actions of someone who acted recklessly without intent. Those are the actions of someone who committed an act and knew exactly what they had done. The prosecution reminded the jury about the 4 children, about those children growing up without their mother because of Tyler Derochowski's choice. The defense gave its closing argument. They acknowledged the tragedy. They acknowledged that Tyler committed the act, but they argued that the prosecution hadn't met its burden of proof on specific intent. They urged the jury to consider whether there was reasonable doubt, whether the evidence definitively proved that Tyler intended the outcome. The judge instructed the jury on the law, on the elements of second-degree murder, on the burden of proof, on the definition of specific intent, on what reasonable doubt means. The jury retired to deliberate. In the deliberation room, 12 jurors reviewed the evidence. They discussed the case. They listened to the 911 call again. They reviewed the testimony, and they reached a verdict. The verdict came back: guilty, second-degree murder. Tyler Neil Derkowski was convicted of the murder of Ashley Fish. In Louisiana, the sentence for second-degree murder is mandatory. There's no discretion. The judge must impose life in prison at hard labor without the possibility of parole, probation, or suspension of sentence. On March 22, 2024, Tyler Derochowski was sentenced to life in prison. He will never be eligible for release. He will spend the rest of his natural life behind bars. Beauregard Parish District Attorney Jimmy Lestage made a statement after the verdict. This case is extremely tragic. 4 young children are left to grow up without their mother because of the actions of this man. I hope the knowledge that he will be sentenced to serve out his natural life in prison brings some closure for them and for the rest of Ashley's family. Closure. It's a word that gets used often in cases like this. The idea that a conviction and sentence will somehow close the chapter, will allow the family to move on, will provide a sense of justice that helps with healing. But does it really work that way? Can there ever be true closure when a mother is lost? When 4 children no longer have the person who loved them most? When a daughter had to inform police where to find her mother? The conviction means Tyler will be held accountable. He'll spend his life in prison. He'll never walk free. He'll never have another chance to harm anyone. But that doesn't bring Ashley back. It doesn't undo the trauma those children experienced. It doesn't give them their mother back for birthdays and graduations and weddings and all the moments she'll miss. Justice was served in the legal sense. Tyler was held accountable for his actions, but the human cost can never be remedied by a verdict. Ashley Fish is gone. She was 28 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her. She had 4 daughters who needed her. She had dreams and plans and a future. And in 21 minutes on an April evening, all of that was taken away. The question that remains in this case is, why? What motivated Tyler Derochowski to commit this act? What happened in those 40 minutes between Ashley's last text and the 911 call? We may never know the complete answer. Tyler hasn't publicly spoken about his motivation. The trial focused on proving intent, not on explaining it. Domestic violence often has no rational explanation. Situations escalate for reasons that seem minor to outsiders. Arguments over nothing become serious altercations. Jealousy, control, anger, all combine to create situations where violence erupts. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, intimate partner violence accounts for 15% of all violent offenses. Women between the ages of 18 to 24 are most commonly affected by an intimate partner, and firearms are involved in approximately 53% of intimate partner fatalities. Ashley Fish became a statistic, one of thousands of women who lose their lives to intimate partners every year in the United States. One more name added to the list of victims who thought they were safe in their own homes with someone they trusted. The signs of domestic violence aren't always obvious. Sometimes there are no prior incidents of physical conflict. Sometimes the violence emerges suddenly, with fatal consequences. But experts say there are often warning signs if you know what to look for. Controlling behavior, isolation from friends and family, monitoring of communications, extreme jealousy, accusations, threats during arguments, destruction of property. We don't know if any of these signs were present in Ashley and Tyler's relationship. The public record doesn't show them. The testimony at trial didn't reveal them. The investigation focused on the incident itself. But it's worth noting Ashley's last text message one more time. "I'm still working on my situation here." What situation? Was it Tyler? Was there an argument happening? Was Ashley trying to manage a conflict while also preparing dinner for her children and coordinating their evening routine? We'll never know. Ashley can't tell us, and Tyler hasn't explained. What we do know is this. On April 7th, 2022, 4 children lost their mother, a family lost a daughter, a community lost a member, and Tyler Derochowski made a choice that destroyed multiple lives, including his own. Today, Tyler sits in a Louisiana correctional facility. He'll remain there for the rest of his life. He'll never see the outside world as a free man again. Every day he'll wake up in a cell. Every day he'll live with the knowledge of what he did. Ashley's daughters are growing up without her. They're being raised by family members who love them. They're getting support and counseling. They're learning to live with the trauma and the loss, but they'll never get their mother back. They'll never hear her voice again. They'll never feel her hug them. They'll never have her there for the important moments of their lives. The oldest daughter will carry certain memories forever. That burden is something no child should ever have to bear. This case should make us think about the people in our lives, about the relationships around us, about the signs we might be missing. If you know someone who's being affected by domestic violence, speak up. If you see signs of concerning behavior in relationships, don't look away. If someone tells you they're afraid of their partner, believe them, because the next Ashley Fish could be your friend, your coworker, your neighbor, your family member. Domestic violence takes lives. It destroys families. It leaves children without parents. It creates trauma that lasts generations. And it often happens behind closed doors, in quiet neighborhoods, in homes that look perfectly normal from the outside. The National Domestic Violence Hotline operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 1-800-799-7233. You can also text START to 88788 or visit thehotline.org. The conversation is confidential. The advocates are trained. The resources are available. If you're being affected, reach out. If you know someone who's being affected, help them reach out. Because silence protects perpetrators and harms victims. Ashley Fish deserved better. She deserved to live. She deserved to watch her daughters grow up. She deserved to be safe in her own home. Instead, she became another name on the list of domestic violence victims, another statistic in an epidemic of intimate partner violence that claims lives every single day in this country. Remember her name. Remember her story. And if you see something, say something. Because the next call to 911 could be prevented. The next child could be spared the trauma of losing a parent to violence. The next family could be saved. Rest in peace, Ashley Fish. Your daughters will grow up knowing that their mother was loved, that justice was served, and that the man who took you from them will never walk free again. If this case affected you, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. We're covering cases that highlight the importance of domestic violence awareness and prevention. Drop a comment with your thoughts on how we can better protect victims of domestic violence. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear Ashley's story, because awareness saves lives, and silence can cost them.